More chips, don't let the salad win. That's the message in terms of nature of the food maybe that we consume in Wales.
It's Wrexham, Wrexham, Wrexham.
He's done it, the magic little man, Watkin. Oh, he scored! Steve Watkin has got a goal!
Ball breaks for Foden, it's in early, as Rush likes it, and he'll chase it, he'll collect it, Ian Rush!
Bennett, and that's a second for Wrexham. Well, classic, changing defence into attack.
Conley! 1-0 to Wrexham, Carl Conley's done it!
Trundle for options, put it back to Morels. Oh, it's a good save! Oh no, it is, and it's in the back of the net. Andy Morel. What a goal! What a goal! What a goal from Al Robson Carnham! Folks, good wicket kids up. Something special is happening here tonight. Wales are going into the semi-finals of the European Championship.
Wanagati, Ferguson has definitely won it for Wrexham now.
Here's Mendy! There's that race-class roar again! Saved by Foster!
Wales are going to the Euros next summer. Wilkinson's wonderful Welsh women.
Wales! Wales have done it! They've reached the World Cup! It's him again! Champions! Wrexham are promoted! They have their storybook ending!
The first team in history to eat more chips and not let salad win.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast for one of the most recognisable flags in the Welsh Football Supporters universe. We're back to the safety of pre-recording this week, so I can say things like, I'd like to up the with a big and be able to edit it out later. No Daz again this week as he's fiddling about in France, but in a week when a festival in a Mexican city served 13,215 tacos in 1 hour, and in the process also broke the Guinness World Records for the largest stir fry and the largest frying pan. The La Discada 2025 festival in Guadalupe, Nuevo Leon, involved a team of 100 culinary students using a 23-foot diameter frying pan to prepare a stir-fry dish called La Discada, which contains sausage, beef, pork, bacon, tomatoes, peppers, onions, and beer. The stir-fry cooked for 3 hours and 40 minutes over a wood fire, and the 5,331 pounds of cooked food were then turned into tacos served to the festival's 10,000 attendees. The event earned 3 Guinness World Record titles, the most tacos served in 1 hour, the largest stir-fry, and the largest frying pan. Luckily, 13,214 of those tacos didn't go to waste and were polished off by only one man. Flown in specially to clear the culinary backlog, it's Jamie!
Tacos.
Yeah,
now you've said that, I really fancy Mexican food now.
Yeah,
that's a lot. That's a lot of tacos, right?
That's what Deliveroo's for, isn't it? Jamie, welcome. Daz, as you say, is on his holidays, and as you can see, he's working hard.
Of course he is.
Well, every time I see a picture of him, he's always got a glass in his hand, whether it be Guinness or wine. And look at him looking at those barrels. If anybody's thinking, can I get one of them through duty free?
Well, it's better that he sends us these pictures with the glass in his hand rather than the ones with in his hand.
Do you know, I was like, he'll join us later with his review, and I was thinking that because he says there are 2 things I like, and the first thing I'm like, what? But yeah, I didn't think that bit. Anyway, let's go. Let's go and talk about what's happened this week. So Saturday saw Wrexham welcome Sheffield Wednesday to the Stoke Kairos. Let's look first of all at the lineup, and it was virtually identical, the lineup to the game versus West Brom the week before, apart from Nathan Broadhead starting, seeing as Josh Windass is now injured and unfortunately he's going to be out for a number of weeks. Jamie, any surprises there for you with regards to the lack of changes? Obviously, Doyle was on the bench, our new signing, wasn't included in the starting 11. Was that a bit of a shocker?
I was a little bit surprised by that. Big big signing, big price tag. Excuse me. There was a little part of me that thought he would come straight in, but I suppose you have to bear in mind he had only been through the door, 48 hours before. So yeah, maybe unsurprising that he stuck with Brunt. Yeah, I think most people were probably a little bit disappointed that. No, Christ, that sounds horrible. A little bit disappointed that McLean was starting again. In other words, that Kakache wasn't fit again, because I think there seems to be sort of a universal agreement that we're missing Kakache, I think, down that left. But yeah, other than that, it's kind of what I expected. So yeah, it was. On paper, it still looks a very, very strong team.
Well, the final score was 2-2. 15 minutes. Kiefer Moore, header from the free kick down, which came off the back of the defender, and then a fantastic half volley into the net with an instant reaction. So a first goal for him. 31 minutes more again on the rebound from a shot that came in. They had their keeper, who literally had I don't think he had any training sessions with him, who's the fourth choice keeper from Cardiff City, because their Sheffield Wednesday's number one keeper unfortunately was injured and they had no backup. So they'd applied for an emergency loan for a keeper, and they'd got this fourth choice keeper from Cardiff. And I have to be honest, he had hands a bit like Chris Beckett's, because he didn't seem to be able to catch anything. And this goal was absolutely the thing of that, because the shot came in as a stinger. He parried it with his hands and it just bounced right into the kind of the 6-yard area, and then Kiefer Moore just ran in and smashed it into the net. So 2-0 up at half time. I was feeling very, very relaxed at that point. I know Kelly went, didn't she? Did she kind of enjoy that first half?
Yes, she enjoyed, obviously, first game she's been able to this season, so she enjoyed being back there. Yeah, I think, like I say, I think we just gave them a little bit too much. Maybe respect's not the right word, but I think we gave them a little bit too much freedom as the game went on. From the match reports and things that I've read, and the highlights, the extended highlights that I've been able to watch, I think we were well in control in that first half without necessarily blowing them away. Although I think, maybe that is a question that does need to be asked about, should we be a bit more ruthless? Because as we went into that second half, it was, you talk about Jekyll and Hyde and two different sides to things. They came out, from what I can gather, and maybe again you can maybe fill in the blanks, but from what I gather, they changed formation in the second half, which we just couldn't deal with. Obviously, we didn't change anything because we don't change anything. And I think what was very evident from the highlights I watched and from the stats more than anything else. If you look at, I know for viewers, you've put the stats up there, which are match stats, aren't they? But what is pretty eye-opening is if you look at the stats just from a first half perspective and then isolate them to just a second half perspective, it was unbelievable. We sat off and regressed so much in that second half.
Really
and was
badly.
so deep. And that gave them an incentive. It gave them encouragement, and then with the tactical changes that their manager had made, they were getting in, and they could smell blood and getting into the game more and more. Obviously Barry Bannon goes and gets their first goal back. In that second half, we made him look like prime Lionel Messi. No disrespect, he is a fantastic footballer, but if you watched him in that second half,
and he's come from good stock, because his granddad used to play for Wrexham, Tom Bannon, in the 1950s. So he made over 200 appearances, scored a hatful of goals. Was one of the key, quite a key star player for Wrexham in the 50s. So comes from very, very good stock. And it's interesting to see. It's very rare you see now midfielders with a comb over. That the Bobby Charltons of this world.
I was going to say that was
aren't they?
Yeah, I was a little. It's funny you say that, because when he scored that goal and then he picked the ball up out the net and ran back to the halfway line, I was a little bit disappointed that he didn't give it the whole Bobby Charlton jump in the air, fist in the air celebration. That I think his friends and family need to tell him to just respectfully let it go now and shave it off. But no, hey, look, without sort of going over everything we talked about last week with Sheffield Wednesday, just purely from a loyalty perspective, got a lot of respect for him, to be honest with you. There's not a lot of that loyalty in football anymore. And he is a quality footballer. I say it tongue in cheek, and more as a criticism to the way that we played that second half. Like I say, we gave him the freedom of the place, and he literally covered every blade of grass, and he absolutely dictated the show in the second half. And once they got that first goal, you could see what was coming. I was again when I saw all the notifications, I saw Matt Racecourse Ramble, the Fid boys all posting the same thing. You can see what's coming here. You know what's going to happen. You can see what's coming, and lo and behold, second goal, 2-2. And then, to be honest with you, we were very lucky to get a point in the end because they had a chance. Literally, last kick of the game, they had a chance which Danny Ward saved, didn't he?
Yes.
I mean, look, I guess you've got to try and be positive in the sense of, look, it's the first point on the board in the Championship, which is a significant milestone, isn't it? But it definitely does feel like a wasted opportunity considering the position we were in at half time. I think for me, the biggest thing that come out of this game was it just raises questions for me, lots of questions that are, I think, are fair to be asked. And a lot of them around Parky and the management. For me, I think it's been said before, hasn't it? He's very and look, I'm gonna precursor anything I say from this point on with this is absolute not me saying we need to get rid of Parky. This is absolute. I'm not saying we need to get rid of him. We need to replace him or any of this bullshit. This is just an observation and something I've said before, but I'm going to say it again because I think it's something now that is going to be. It's something that's going to become more of a prominent conversation on a regular basis, which is there is that question mark over the tactical ability that he's got in the sense of he knows one way to play, and that's the way he sets us up to play, and that's the way we play, and that's the way we've been very successful, which is great. It is great. But as we've said many, many times now, this step that we've made into this league and these teams that we're playing, it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough to give us the kind of results that we would want to see us up further at the top end of the league than towards the bottom. I think what I noticed on Saturdays only from the highlights, and again, you please tell me because you will have not only seen the full game, but you get a great view of it from where you sit. But one thing that I noticed in the highlights, which is a real concern for me, is the gaps in between the midfield and the forwards and the midfield and the defence. To me, it looks the opposition are finding spaces in between that sandwich way too easy, to the point where it almost looks like they've got more players on the pitch than we have. We are just so regimented in the way we're set up, very heavily reliant on the wing backs performing and the target man performing. Now, thankfully, Kiefer Moore has been a godsend so far this season. Yep. It scares the life out of me how reliant we are on him, because whenever he's not been on the pitch, we struggle because we've got nothing else like him. So that's a bit of a worry that we are very, very reliant on him. It doesn't look so far. There hasn't been a huge amount of creativity from anywhere else, and the other concern is that again, that system that we play heavily relies on the wing backs playing well in both directions, and at the moment, both Barney and Longman are a little bit hot and cold, and then on the left hand side you've had Kakachi, who's played once and then has been out injured, and then you've got McLean, who, like I say, without going in 2-footed on him, he looks like he's struggling a bit to me at this, in the Championship at this time in his career. I know he's played there before, but he looks a little bit like he's struggling to me to keep up with the pace of it, or whether he's just got a lack of confidence. I don't know. But if those wing backs are not in your top sort of 3 or 4 players on the pitch, this system is going to struggle. And the fact that we just don't have a plan B. And we've talked about plan Bs before. But when you were in National League and League Two, it didn't really matter. But it's going to matter in this league. And I think the other thing as well, which I've got a bit of a concern of, is I'm as excited as anyone for this transfer window, and the players we brought in have been phenomenal. But it worries me a little bit with some of the players we've brought in from the point of view that they have been brought in and they are not used to playing, or they look like they're struggling a little bit to play in this system. And I think you're then left with a situation where you have a player, let's say Nathan Broadhead, for example, a player who we know is a fantastic footballer. He is a fantastic footballer. We've seen it for Wales. We've seen it for Ipswich. We've read what the Ipswich fans have said. A lot, most of them gutted that he's gone. But he looks a bit lost to me playing in this system. And I think you've got two choices. You've spent a big amount of money on that player, so you've got two choices. You either keep out hope that he can adapt to the system you want to play, or you have variation to the way you play, which will get the best out of the players in positions they're comfortable playing. Now, at the very top level, your Guardiolas and people like that, they have the ability to change formations, for different games, for different oppositions, for different periods of different games, within the game. Now, look, I'm not ultimately, if Parky was Pep Guardiola, he'd be managing the Premier League, wouldn't he? I just think it's a bit. It's already started for me in a very early part of this season. It's already started. The question marks have started about the tactical flexibility of this team, and at the moment, it's a little bit of a concern, because one thing that I picked up on online from the Sheffield Wednesday game was everybody scratching their head at why he didn't make any real changes in the second half. From what I understand, he changed the forwards. Is that right?
Front two, yeah, that's it. And he made two substitutions in the front two.
But he changed nothing else to try and influence that game. And and every I read a lot of comments on X for people that were at the game, all saying the same thing, all saying, what is Parky seeing that 10,000 other people in the stadium are not seeing? Because everybody else was saying, we're dropping back, we're giving them too much room, we're giving them too much of the ball, we're letting them press onto us, something needs to be changed. But the one person that can affect that didn't, for whatever reason, didn't agree and didn't seem to want to change it. So I don't know. I mean, like I say, you've probably got a much better perspective on it from me, because you were there and saw the whole game. What else can you kind of add that's of relevance?
Well, let me give you my thoughts on the game itself. I think even from the beginning, we didn't dominate particularly. Sheffield Wednesday were finding their feet, but they were quite aggressive to begin with. They didn't have any finishes per se from that point of view. When Kiefer Moore scored on 15 minutes, then we started to take charge more. They were still dangerous, but we looked comfortable, and we were moving the ball well. We were creating space. Obviously, that second goal by Kiefer Moore, on 31 minutes. For the rest of the first half, we looked fairly in charge. We're to the point where I said to Dave next to us, I think I'm quite comfortable here. We could get maybe another one, and it'll be 3-0 in the end, and that's fine. As you rightly said, the Sheffield Wednesday manager made changes. He went to a back four. He changed some aspects of midfield, and I think he gave Bannon some space. Add to that, for some reason, when we came back onto the field for the second half, we then decided that we were going to give the midfield some space. And you're absolutely right. Almost from the off, the midfield, and it got worse and worse as the half went on. The midfield was setting further and further and further and further back. The forwards were pushing further and further and further and further up. And before you know it, you were having a massive gap in that middle where they just ran riot. They just did whatever they wanted to do. And you could see that as the first half started, we were probably, I don't know, for the first few minutes, we were kind of at the races. But then after that, I don't know whether we relaxed, took our feet off the gas. I don't know what it was, but it just seemed that we took it for granted. We gave Barry Bannon far too much space and time, and he absolutely ran the show. He's a dangerous player. You cannot do that to a player like him. You have to man mark him. You have to close him down. You can't give him time. He's a tiny powerhouse, and he ran that midfield, absolutely ran that midfield ragged, to the point where they were totally in charge. He obviously scored the goal on 63 minutes with some massively weak defending. I mean, they pretty much just walked through us. There were lots of bodies flying around everywhere, but even the tackles that were going in, they weren't resulting in anything. They weren't resulting in as attempting to take the ball. It's almost as if they walk through us at times. And as you rightly said, yes, mate.
I was just going to say, how much of the second half? How much do you think if it was down to the changes that they made and their kind of attitude in the second half, or how much of it was down to the fact that we took our foot off the gas? Because it was interesting that obviously the terminology you used at half time was comfortable. Now that's obviously you talking to somebody in the stand. Do you think that's what Wrexham players felt? Do you think they came out in the second half and just thought, "Oh, we're going to cruise this," or was it more a case of Sheffield Wednesday changing things?
My feeling is that the changes that they made an impact to the point where Bannon scored his goal, and then Wrexham players panicked because they're like, okay, they've got us here, and we're going to stick to the plan, and they sat further and further back, thinking we'll just hang on. You were absolutely right. The whole feeling in the ground. There were other feelings which I'll talk about in a second, but the main feeling in the ground was you could see it coming. You knew it was coming. The second goal, the equalising goal, was coming because we were sitting further and further back. Defensively, we were all over the shop. There were players missing tackles. At one point, Max Cleworth pulled so far out. He's leaving a huge gap behind him. To cover, obviously, they were trying to draw each other across. The fact that you've got James McLean, who maybe isn't coming back all the time, that creates problems. Longman, he had a tendency to stay too far up the field and not come back to support Cleworth. So you're already having a bit of a weak point on that right side anyway. But generally,
that's been a pattern so far this season. And like I said before, we've got away with it in previous years. But playing this 3-5-2, 5-3-2, whatever you want to call it, playing it with the wing backs. Your wing backs have to be on it every game, forward and back. And at the minute, this is what concerns me a little bit, is that with all this recruitment that we've done, the one area on the pitch which is crucial to the way he plays, apart from the target man up front, it worries me a little bit, because exactly like you've just described there, what's happening and what we've seen on a lot of the goals we've conceded this season is that the wing backs are either they're not quick enough to get back, or they're just not getting back full stop. And what's happening then is, because you're then exposing only three at the back, the two on the end, which is Max and mainly Brunt, are getting pulled out wide to try and stop the ball coming in, which is leaving Connor Cody in the middle completely exposed. If you look at how many goals we've conceded, like in the 12-yard, 6-yard area, it's because the ball's coming in and there's no frigger there.
There's nobody there. No, absolutely not. You could see it come in. 81 minutes, Kadamadri. Again, a massively straightforward goal, really, to draw the game. And then, as you rightly said, we had a little bit of a go then. There were a couple of changes. And, Sam Smith, when he came on, he tried. And you could see that Parky, he'd taken Nathan Broadhead off. And he was trying to push up with some strong players. But James McLean lost the ball on the edge of the 18-yard box, and Matt on Racehorse Ramble timed it 7 seconds. In 7 seconds, it had gone from we had the ball in their box to them charging forward 3-on-2 or 4-on-3, 3-on-2, I think it was. And as you rightly said, I saw that and I went, and I just put my head in my hands and went, oh, here we go, because it was right near the end. Literally, it was the last kick of the game. And if he'd have had if that number 17, a name I can't remember, from Sheffield Wednesday, if he'd have had a little bit more nous about him, he was one-on-one with Danny Ward. All he needed to do was chip him, because Danny Ward already went down to try and block, but he just hit it straight flat along the ground at Danny Ward, and Danny Ward managed to stop it. He should have won.
Another thing about that move, and then subsequently the referee blew his whistle straight after that save, and something else I noticed as well, and this was something else I wanted to ask you, was, do you think fitness is a problem at the minute?
Well, they were all absolutely dead on their feet at the end. I don't know whether literally to a man, they were all on their haunches or sitting down or absolutely flat out. You can see why, because Sheffield really, really picked the pace up, particularly in the last 20 minutes. They absolutely dominated and ran us ragged. We were chasing shadows, a bit like when we talk about Preston in a minute in the first half. We were chasing shadows. We weren't setting up in formation. We weren't man marking. We were standing there and we were ball watching a lot of the time. And wherever the ball was, a couple of players would go to it, and then the player would get past them, and before you know it, there's holes behind it. I don't know whether it's fitness, but I'm not surprised if they were exhausted by the end because they've been chasing the ball so much.
I mean, it was interesting because the speed of the transition of that move from back to front in the last minute of the game by Sheffield Wednesday was rapid. The four of them that were going forward were rapid, and they were like they still had energy to burn. Obviously, that got saved. The referee blew his whistle, and all I noticed, just before I flicked the highlights off, all I noticed was all the Wrexham players that I could see in the shot just collapsed to the floor, hands on their knees, and they looked absolutely knackered. And obviously that was something that we saw in the Southampton game, ran out of steam in the Southampton game, the West Brom game, similar. I was just curious if do we still think that we're a little bit behind from a fitness point of view?
Possibly. Some observations of the players themselves. Danny Ward didn't do much wrong, although I think probably one of the goals he probably could have parried it a bit better, and maybe if it would have been Arthur, he would have done that. But I think that
do you think that I was going to ask you? I was going to ask you, as soon as you've mentioned it, I was going to avoid it. But their second goal, do you think he could have done better for that?
Well, this is the question. You see, when you look at him, he came in him at point blank range, so you don't have much time to react, and it came at him at head height, and he palmed it. But the problem is, by the time it got, he reacted, it was already above his head. So he's palming it almost when it's up here. So you've really got to try and palm it up and out. But I think his reaction was the reaction time was so little. By the time he palmed it, he's palmed it behind himself, and he's actually palmed it into the back of his net. I mean, maybe Arthur might have palmed it over because he's taller. Difficult to say that. I mean, that's kind of conjecture, really.
I should just quantify, really. I'm not asking because I'm trying to ask a loaded question. It's just purely because obviously there's been a big debate since the start of the season, the whole Arthur Danny Ward debate. I agree with you. You could argue till the cows come home for that goal, and you could. If you wanted to, you could analyse any goal for any team.
How do you want to put it? Arthur let in 3 in the whole game and let in 2 on Tuesday night. What? He's not as if he's keeping clean sheets as well. No, if he was keeping clean sheets and Danny's letting in goals, you kind of go, well, maybe there's a thing. I just think there's a lot of nerves, and the one thing I did notice is I think a lot of players are playing too hard. They're over trying because they want to do well so badly. They're new, they want to make an impression. They want the fans behind them. They're trying really, really hard, and I think some of them are trying a bit too hard. We'll talk about Preston in a minute and Harry Ashfield. Cody in the middle, I don't think there's not a lot really he could have done. He didn't make any major mistakes, but as you say, it's a shaky defense. Max on the other side, he was pulled out a few times where I'm thinking, Max, this isn't the National League, and come forward, because don't forget he scored almost as many goals as Elliot Lee last year. So I think he's got that kind of thing. You can't do that. You're not that quick, unfortunately, at this level. You need to stay and do your job from that point of view.
I think Max is taking a little bit of time to adjust. I'm convinced he has the ability to be successful at this level and beyond potentially. But I think he is finding this step. It's taking him time to adjust, I think is fair to say. I just hope that Parky sticks with him and gives him the opportunity. I think I feel a little bit for Lewis Brunt on the other side, because I can see Callum Doyle coming in and starting now.
Absolutely, he made some mistakes on Saturday. And some of them were fairly poor mistakes, and he has this continual thing of not watching the other two defenders and staying in line. He's constantly out of line, either ahead or behind, and you want to go at times. Listen, it's a back three, and it's most important you try and stay in sync. At the moment, you are playing players onside, and you are not helping, and then making some really poor defensive mistakes as well, which is just a bit of weak defending. It's not helped by the fact is that McLean on his side, we have a problem at the moment where we have a tendency, when we think we're going forward at pace, we all commit. It's a total commitment. And then what happens is we'll lose the ball in midfield and they'll turn it around and come back, and we can't get back quick enough. And McLean is one of the worst for that. The amount of times where he's bombed forward or he's gone forward thinking, oh, we're in an advantageous position here, and then the ball gets turned over quickly, and he's not tracking back. He as some in the Mold Road stand said on Saturday, and apparently got some chat back from McLean about it. He was 10 yards off pace. Sometimes you leave that guy. And the problem is, if you've got Brunt, who is already struggling, and you're not backing him up, which is an important part of the back five ethos, I'm not surprised a lot of the goals we've seen so far are coming in either that way or the other way, because there seems to be the same problem on the other side. And as you said, when you've got a wing-back system, it's important. But the problem is we've never played with dedicated wing-backs. We've played with wingers who are good at going forward, and we've tried to teach them how to become defenders. And we've seen it. Barney, at times, it can be very poor. I mean, I remember that a goal at Bristol Rovers last year, where literally, he went to kick the ball and missed it and let the guy in, and he scored, and that was the draw, and then we gave away 2 points. If you're going to play a wing-back system, we really need either wingers who are capable of coming back and defending, or dedicated wing backs who are good at going forward.
But this is the issue, you see, is that in the lower leagues, this is the system that he chooses to play. In the lower leagues, you've been able to get away with wingers playing as wing backs because it's not as intense. It's not as your mistakes aren't punished as much as they are at this level. But you are spot on. If you're going to play a wing-back system, you need wing-backs that can play as wing-backs. And they're quite few and far between. Proper wing-backs who can do a wing-back role are very few and far between, which is why, for me, it really is a concern that we have no variation to the way we play. Look, at the end of the day, like we've said a million times, we know how Parky wants to play. He's done it all through his career, and more often than not, it's ended up costing him his job. Now, whether that will be the case at Wrexham, who knows? I'm not going to, I'm not going to criticize the man. It's for him to choose how he wants us to play. I've said it before. Does it frustrate me at times? Yes, it does. Would I prefer us to play a different style of football at times? Yes, I would. I think do I think that to be successful in this league going forward, you have to be able to be flexible? 100%, I think you do. And the challenge we've got here is he capable? We've talked at depth about player ceilings. Are some of our playing squad at the ceiling of their capability, and therefore need to move on? Genuine question is Parky at his ceiling now? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, he did get a lot of criticism, as I say, because he only made those 2 changes. Obviously, Doyle was on the bench as the new signing.
Take Doyle out of the equation, because obviously that's a defensive substitution, right? But looking at that game as you saw it, why do you think he didn't make any more changes? Do you think it was because he didn't trust the players on the bench? Is it a squad depth issue? Because I know we're going to get to Preston in a minute, but if you look at Preston as an alternative, because we played a lot of the kind of legacy players and had a lot of the new players on the bench that were able to come on and impact and change the game. It wasn't like that for the Sheffield Wednesday game, because obviously we started with all the kind of the cream of the crop and all the new players. Do you think it was that he's got no faith in his substitutes, or what do you think?
I don't think that. I mean, the problem is when you looked at that bench, apart from maybe Sam Smith, there wasn't really anybody who. I mean, days gone by, Elliot Lee might have made a difference, but there wasn't really any in play. There wasn't a Stephen Fletcher who you feel you could put on and he's going to make a difference. I don't think it's about lack of trust. I think he thought that the players that were on the field would be able to do the job, and all right, let 1 goal in, but not let in 2, and certainly not let in 3. And then by the time it got to 81 minutes, Kadamadri scored. It was 2-2. I think he was kind of like, well, do we go bust, or do we? And I think he just wanted to see what is at the moment barring injuries, our primary squad. I think he just wanted to see, right, well, let's see you cope. Let's see you cope, because you can do things like this early in the season. You know, you can sort of say, well, all right, we'll give away a 2-goal lead and it'll be 2-2, and maybe we'll lose it. But because don't forget, he's learning about the players as well, right? The legacy players, he knows, right? He know all the players that were on the bench on Saturday. He knows how they play, right? He's still trying to learn how Cody, how Broadhead, how Kiefer Moore. I mean, he's got a better idea from that point of view. He's learning. O'Brien. He's learning how these players play and how they fit in, and whether they can grab a pressure situation and do something with it.
I agree with you. I agree with you. However, one other thing I would say to that, and it comes back a little bit to the point I made before about a bit of a concern with some of these players we've brought in, and I think we're asking them to play in a system and in positions that they're not familiar with, or they've not played before and are struggling. I'm not saying they can't necessarily in time. And again, use Broadhead as an example.
He was very lost. He looked very lost. He was very deep at times.
Yeah,
you could see that he was kind of looking at Matty James and going, not sure what to do. And you're thinking you should be up front, mate, not behind here. So yeah.
If you ask me to kind of summarise where does Nathan Broadhead play? Where's his best position? I would say playing on the left of a three, front three. That to me is where I've seen him play the best. Where you've got a number 9, he's the left of a 3, and you have somebody on the right of a 3, and he's cutting in. That to me, and you know, I've seen him play quite a few times, but I certainly wouldn't say I'm an expert in his career or anything like that.
Nope.
But I know enough about him as a player to know that that's where you would get the best out of him. Now, what I'm fascinated to know is that we've brought him in and spent £7 million, whatever it is, a huge amount of money to bring him in. He will know that. He will know that that's his best position. So what's really fascinating is I'm not going to play like that, because I don't play that system. That's not a system I play. So realistically, you're looking at that player, and will he have had a conversation with him beforehand and said, look, I know you play, in a on the left of the front 3, but I don't play that system. I play a 5-3-2, 3-5-2, whichever way you want to look at it, with a target man, and then where I see you fitting into my system is playing off the striker. But I don't know. It seems a bit of a gamble, doesn't it? But
that's what I'm saying. I think Parky is learning about these new players, which I think is why he didn't make. Even though he took Broadhead off, I think he could realise that Broadhead was a little bit lost.
But if you're so stubborn, maybe stubborn's the wrong word, but if you're so rigid in how you want to play the game and set your team up, which we know he is, would you not be better off targeting players, particularly when you've got the budget? Because you can't say he's not had the money, he's not had the resources. Mm-hmm. Would you not be better?
Who's to say he's not? The window's not closed yet. Who's to say he's not? I understand what you're saying. But who knows? Let's just end on a couple of positives, because it's all been very negative. Thankfully, we've got Preston to talk about in a second. Let's just end on a couple.
You're right, but and a great point. Just to put some perspective on this, this is just a conversation, isn't it, about what we're seeing? Yeah. This is not a doom and gloom. Nope. Ultimately, what we're seeing now is what we expected. We knew this was going to be difficult. We knew this was going to be hard. I think it's more just commenting on what we're seeing. That's all. This is not any kind of witch hunt or being negative. And
you have to remember, and anybody who watched the Carabao Cup in the week, look at Sheffield Wednesday versus Leeds. Who Sheffield Wednesday knocked Leeds out, and you watch how they played against Leeds, right? Yeah. This is a team of no mugs, and they have zero fear. They have absolutely nothing to lose, right? And that is the most dangerous team you can come across, a team that has nothing at all to lose, because they play with freedom. And that's exactly what happened in that second half against us. And if you watch that Leeds game, that's exactly because Leeds absolutely.
I was going to say they rode their luck in that game. I saw the highlights of that game. They rode their luck in that game because, I mean, Leeds literally, they did everything other than score.
Battered them. But at the end of the day, they hung on for a draw. And then in the penalty shootout, the fourth choice Cardiff keeper suddenly his crisp packets turned into heat shields because he kept everything out. So, they, like I said last week, not to be underestimated, and they played without fear. And when you've got a team who plays without fear, and like you say, and with a little bit of luck, because luck is a big part of football as well, there's very little you can do apart from batten down the hatches. 2 positives for me. One, Dobson. I have been very, very pleased with how he is picked up his game. He is really starting to come into his own over the last couple of games. Agree or disagree?
So again, I would agree. I've seen and heard a lot of people say similar things, which I think gives Parky maybe a headache he didn't expect to have, particularly if there's truth in the rumours that we're looking at a couple of additional midfielders. Because I think in his mind, I think he thought maybe Dobson would struggle and he'd need reinforcements. But I agree. From the bits obviously the games I have seen, and then from the bits I saw of certainly the Sheffield Wednesday game, but from a lot of other people have said the same thing. So yes, that is testament to him. By his own admission, he'd never played at this level before. He didn't know what to expect, what it was going to be like. And I have to hold my hands up. I thought he'd struggle. Because I just didn't think he had the mobility. To be honest, I think this is such a physically demanding league. You've got to be able to get around the pitch, particularly in midfield. You've got to be able to get around the pitch quickly. You look at Lewis O'Brien, you look at how mobile he is. I didn't think George Dobson would do it, but yeah, I agree with you. I think he's been a bit of a revelation so far this season.
And secondly, and I'll be interested to get your take on this because you went there. I was there on Saturday. Massively proud of Wrexham fans supporting the Sheffield Wednesday fans with the black and gold until it's sold. There were a huge amount of black and gold shirts. There was a lot of, clapping along with some of the Sheffield Wednesday chants. There was a lot of, celebrating them because of what they're going through. I'm massively proud because, the majority of Wrexham fans supported that. However, I saw a number of reactions afterwards from fans saying, no wonder we lost. We were too busy supporting Sheffield Wednesday, which I've never heard such crap in all my life. Do you honestly think that Wrexham fans who weren't supporting Sheffield Wednesday all the way through, didn't celebrate the Sheffield Wednesday goals, but at certain times when they're talking about Chansiri out, were applauding along? And there was one, the timing was unfortunate because it was literally just before Bannon's goal, but there was one point where en masse Wrexham fans were clapping along with the Chansiri out chant. We can do that. We can support them in their fight against Chansiri. It doesn't mean we're not supporting, we're not supporting Wrexham. Of course we are. But if the players really rely on the fans that much, we're doomed because it's difficult to have your voice heard. I mean, luckily on Tuesday, because very few Preston fans turned up, it was a lot easier. But I mean, what do you think about? I was just thinking, well, you're just almost excusing a very, very poor display. But maybe that's just me being a bit touchy.
I'm kind of glad you brought it up, really, because it was the last question I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you about the atmosphere, because I read and seen and heard all these same things that you're referring to here. I'd heard references to it being like a pre-season game and terribly flat atmosphere, and heard a lot of I read quite a few people commenting on the ballot has killed the atmosphere. Don't
get me wrong, the atmosphere was flat, but the atmosphere has been flat for all the home games so far. We have a three-sided ground. That doesn't help.
Right.
Okay.
Hang on. Right. Where you're right. It doesn't help. But where the atmosphere is concerned, right, there's a couple of things you've got to take into account. One, the atmosphere and what's going on in the stadium, in the crowd, is very much dependent on what's going on the pitch. Yep. If the team are not fueling the enthusiasm of the crowd, it's going to have an impact on the atmosphere. That's one thing. And again, we play a very defensive, more often than not, a very defensive, passive, out of possession style of football. So that is going to be, therefore, it's not a free flowing, all out attack style of play, which is going to have a bit of an impact. watch any football match you want in any division, unless you start going to like some of the European countries, but watch any British football match, whether it's Premier League or National League. There isn't any fan base anywhere that sings from start to finish. And
go to Man City. Go to Man City at the moment. Apparently, because there are so many tourists there, apparently the atmosphere there is appalling.
There are so many people that criticise the atmosphere in the ground, and I think to myself, how can there be so many people that are critical of the atmosphere and nobody chants, nobody sings? I'm thinking, well, if all you lot got together and just did it anyway, then it'd be fine. It is what it is, isn't it? Like I say, for me, you can't criticize somebody else that may be sat next to you. If you want to stand and sing and chant through the game, happy days. And by all accounts, if you listen to all the people online, that's what everybody wants to do. So surely if a few people start it, that's what will happen. I love a chant, the same, I love singing along to songs and chanting along and everything else. But I'm not an instigator. I'm quite an introverted person. I'm not Jacko. I'm not somebody that's going to stand at the front of the stand and get everybody going. That's not me. But there seem to be a lot of other people who are happy to take that role. So go for it. Absolutely go for it. When it starts, you do get a lot of people that join into it. But it just feels to me like some people are just trying to find things to moan about and be critical of.
I mean, the ballot has made a lot of people unhappy, and it's a perfect. I mean, it might be the problem. It might be the problem. The fact that there is a certain section of the lower tech end that is never the same people twice.
But how can you say the ballot is killing? How can you say that it's killing the atmosphere? Because it's still, the seats are still full. That to me, that people who are saying that to me feels like that's a little bit of a passive aggressive statement towards the newer fan. That's what that feels like to me. Possibly. Because for me, whether it's the ballot or whether it's the free general sale or the fastest finger first as it used to be, as we've discussed on here many times, I'm one of the people. I'm one of the few who try and rely, when I'm available to go, try and rely on getting a ticket via that method. Now, do I come into every game and sing from start to finish? No, I don't. But there's nobody in that stadium that does that. That's for sure. It feels to me like some people are just, they want to be critical about something for the sake of it. But to come back to your question about the suggestion that because we were showing some support for the Sheffield Wednesday cause had any kind of bearing on the game, that's a load of bollocks, in my opinion. Absolute load of bollocks. I've seen people online saying about it was an embarrassment because we were clapping along, and read the room. We were supporting their situation off the pitch. All I heard when I watched the highlights back was, we were singing Rohid and they were singing the English national anthem. And then we would sing James McCleany Hates the King. So it was the usual. What I heard was the usual kind of territorial banter. When we scored, we cheered. When they scored, they cheered. I certainly didn't see any Wrexham fans cheering when they scored any goals. I just felt we were respectfully showing support to their off the field cause. There wasn't a single person in that ground that wouldn't have wanted Wrexham to win. But I don't know. Just some people just seem to have some strange opinions on things. But then again, I suppose that's what makes the world go round, doesn't it? We're all entitled to an opinion, and opinions differ. So,
well, let's move to Tuesday and a complete change for the Carabao Cup second round tie versus Preston North End. Total 11-person change with Okonkwo in goal, O'Connell, Scar, and new signing Doyle at the back, Barnett and Mendy on the wings, and then in midfield, George Evans, Elliot Lee, and Harry Ashfield, and then Sam Smith and Ryan Hardy up front. Jamie, talk about how these players did in a second, but first, were you surprised for a total 11 change, or were you kind of expecting some of the players who played on Saturday to maybe have a bit more of a run out?
Given what I said before about the players on Saturday blowing out their arse at the end of the game, I wasn't surprised to see a full change to this game, particularly again given that he did this in the last round. And like we said then when we talked about that game, because of the sheer volume of pros we've got on the books at the minute, I think you kind of need, he's almost kind of hands forced to do this, because it gives some of these players an opportunity for competitive minutes that are not going to get them otherwise, are they? So no, I wasn't overly surprised to be honest.
Well, Wrexham started fairly strongly, but by 7 minutes, a 20-yard rocket from the Preston forward, a debut for Dobbin and his first goal to take the lead. However, it didn't last very long. 11 minutes, Ryan Hardy in their box was covered by two defenders. He turned to his left to shake off the defender and then just lifted a beautiful... He says it wasn't a cross. It looked like maybe a cross, but apparently he does it all the time. Absolute beauty. Well, that's what he says. Apparently he says the player...
No, you think it was a cross?
No. Some people thought it was a cross. I didn't think it was a cross.
Sorry.
It was pretty far over, but no. Some people thought it was a cross. He said it wasn't a cross. He said it was a shot. Anyway, it leapt over the keeper into the top corner to draw the game 1-1, which was absolutely beautiful. And then the rest of the first half, you could pretty much write off like the second half of the Sheffield Wednesday game. We were incredibly poor. We looked weak. We looked, defensively all over the shop. Letting tackles through, not getting physical, not ball watching on a mass scale, headless chickens, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it was. We lost all our shape, and they absolutely ran us ragged. And we were very, very fortunate, from that point of view. Captain Lindsay popped up with a bullet header from a corner for them to take it to 2-1. They also hit the bar just before half-time, which should have been 3-1. Luckily, he hit it and it bounced straight into Okonkwo's hands. And you're just thinking, okay, how can we manage this with regards to keeping the deficit to a minimum or keeping the pain to a minimum? Parky obviously had a few choice words, which I think weren't horrible words. I think they were more, listen, start believing in yourselves, because there seems to be, a number of players who have lost confidence. And also, and he particularly singled out Harry Ashfield, saying, just relax. He kept saying to him, relax, because you can see Harry was trying so hard, just relax. And that paid off because second half we came out much more positive, much more better possession, much more composure on the ball. They still had their chances, but their chances became fewer and fewer because they took off Dobbin on half time, because he said their manager said he was going to replace him with somebody else, and their attacking threat became less and less and less. We were rewarded then on 59 minutes as Harry Ashfield was got a beautiful pass through ball on the edge of the box, hit it from the edge, deflected shot, went in. His second goal for the club, first goal, obviously first championship goal, went straight up to the 2,500 Wrexham fans and celebrated, beating his chest as the Wrexham fan that he is. For a 19-year-old to score at this level in front of your boyhood club must be unbelievably good. Subs came on, made a massive difference. O'Brien, Dobson in particular, when they came on, they made a huge amount of difference in midfield, really starting to take control from that point of view. Looked like maybe penalties, and then on comes the man mountain that is Kiefer Moore to basically just annoy and harry and just generally get in the way. And that's exactly what he did right at the death. Beautiful cross in from Lewis O'Brien. Keeper went to grab it, missed, fumbled it, dropped down for Kiefer Moore, and he just toe punted it in 3-2. And mass celebrations from the Wrexham fans, mass celebrations from me at home as well. Who I broke the bedroom lamp because I was celebrating that much, so that's something else I've got to pay for. Obviously, fantastic. Wrexham make it to the third round of the League Cup for the first time in 44 years. I can't believe it's that long. But Mel Sutton lost to Tottenham in round 3 in 1981, because I looked it up. And it's brilliant. And what's our reward? What's our reward for all this? We meet Reading at home in round 3 to be played week commencing either the 15th or the 22nd September. Reading. And I found out last night as well, because I was thinking, well, at least Jack Marriott won't be cup tied. It will be cup tied because of the fact is that he played for us in versus Hull City. They've changed the rules this year, so now he can play. So he may be playing against us in the third round. which is so if the story's going to be written,
Yeah.
that's where it's going to come from. It's going to come from Jack Marriott. Go on, give us your. I know you only saw the highlights. Give us your praisey on what you saw.
I mean, another crazy game like the bloody whole one, wasn't it? I mean, from what I understand, I think Preston made some changes, but not as many as we did. So they still had a core of their kind of what you call their first team playing. And again, it was another real time example, wasn't it? Of there is no easy games against teams in this league.
No. I mean, they had two brand new strikers, and they absolutely ran us ragged in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, what I saw, what was evident to me from the extended highlights I watched in the first half was going back to what I said in the Sheffield Wednesday game. Those gaps in between the midfield and the forwards, and then the defence and the midfield, those gaps were like parking spaces. They were so evident. It looked a little bit, I think you might have said it there in your intro, it looked to me like some of our players were just like headless chickens. They were running around not really having a clue what they were doing, where they were going, whether that was because they couldn't keep up with the pace of the game or the pace of the opposition. I don't know. It really highlighted to me one or two of our players, which I when I spoke before about ceilings, I think these one or two have well and truly already hit their ceiling, and we really need to think about
we'll talk about that a bit later on. Talk about that a bit later on.
I'll be surprised if they're still there come the end of Monday night. It was really evident. But I think what you have got to give credit for is the kind of spirit and the grit and determination that they showed, which, maybe that's a reflection on the fact that a big chunk of that team was, again, what you would call maybe some of our more legacy players. So players that have been in and around that dressing room for a longer period of time, don't know when they're beaten, and dug in and kept fighting. Despite being, like you said, outplayed at times. I think we rode our luck at times with some of the chances that they had. But like you say, they get that early goal, and in fairness, to get back into the game with a goal of the season contender. In my opinion, when I first saw it, my first saw it time, my first reaction was that's a cross, and then I watched it a couple more times. And the reason why I would 100% put money on the fact that he meant it, well, two reasons. One is if you look at the speed in which he hit it, there is no way that was a cross. There was no way that was a mishit cross. That was a precision strike. That was. And the second reason is he's done it before. He's done it for Plymouth. He scored a very similar goal for Plymouth. So. That was a huge positive, because I think we've possibly all been a little bit sort of curious, I guess, as to what kind of striker he was. He's had a couple of big chances in a Wrexham shirt in the game, in the minutes he's played. That was that big chance against Southampton. He had that big chance against Hull, didn't he? So he's had a couple of big chances that he's missed, and I think we were all a little bit, what is he? He's not target man. He's not necessarily a skillful striker. What kind of striker is he? What he is, and I refer back to when he signed, and he said in his own words, what he does is he likes to play right on the shoulder of the last defender and get him behind defenders and try and face up to them and make them play the ball, or try and play the ball and try and get past them. But yeah, that was a brilliant goal. Brilliant goal. Like you say, some more questionable defending for their equaliser. I know he's a big lad, but he made our defence or our defensive setup for that corner. He made us look like a bunch of team of midgets, because he towered above them like just no tomorrow. Great header, you have to say. Fair play. Arthur's not stopping that in a million years. Neither is Danny
Lindsay, the captain, with his Terry Butcher headband.
Yeah.
After Smith had tried to take him out of the game. So yeah.
Yeah, it was a good header. But I can say, I think in the second half, fair play to the lads. They kept going. Like you say, Harry Ashfield gets the equaliser. A little bit of luck. He got a big deflection from what I saw. But I thought he did himself. He did himself no harm at all with that performance last night. I know, I know there's been a lot of suggestion about him going out on loan would be possibly the best thing for his development. I'm probably in that camp. However, you listen to Parky and the way he talks about him, and when you consider his age, he's a free hit, isn't he? Because he's not going to take up a squad place. So I can see him staying around. How many competitive minutes he's going to get, I don't know, but he certainly looks like he's got some potential there, and every time he gets on that pitch, he has an impact on the game, that's for sure. And this was another game where he's had a big impact. And like you say, then the changes start to get made on both sides. I think when they took off, I think that Dobbin in particular, I think when he went off, that had a massive change on the game, because he kind of ran the show.
But their manager had said that he was going to take him off. He was only going to give him 45 minutes because I think he's easing him in, and he obviously needed him for the league games that they've got. So yeah.
But like I said before, when we were talking about the Sheffield Wednesday game, the difference between this game and that game for us is obviously we've then got players to bring off the bench who are, what we are probably all universally agreed are our first team. So when you can bring on a Lewis O'Brien on 65 minutes, and you bring on a Kiefer Moore, and you can bring on a George Dobson, who have got fresh legs at that point in any game, it's going to make a massive difference versus if you're bringing on, no disrespect, but if you're in the same situation, you were bringing on a George Evans or something, it's probably not going to have the same impact.
No. I mean, I think bringing on Longman as well to replace Hardy, so pushing Longman to the left wing, keeping Barney on the right wing, probably was the right thing to do as well, because that seemed to work fairly well for a short period of time.
That's interesting, because that potentially gives him another option in the wing back situation. Obviously, if from our point of view, we are probably always on the thought process of, well, down the left it's McLean or Kakache, and down the right it's Longman or Barnett. But obviously Longman has played for us and played for Hull on that left wing back role, and can be effective cutting in. So that's another option that maybe he's got from a wing back perspective. But who knows? But yeah, it looked for all intensive purposes that the game was heading to penalties, didn't it? But then up steps Kiefer Moore to get his third goal in as many days, and at this rate he's going to have a catalogue of the ugliest goals of the season. Because every goal he scored, or the 3 goals he scored, were all pig ugly, but brilliant strikers' goals.
Doesn't matter.
For that goal against the winning goal against Preston, all the Preston players were arms up in the air, foul on the goalkeeper. He did absolutely nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. It's a competitive contact sport, and he did. His arms weren't anywhere. He didn't lean on anybody. He was just competing for the ball. The keeper missed it, and he's reacted the quickest. And right place, right time. It won't matter. On the score sheet or on his goal bonus on his wage slip, it won't say plus £2,000 worldy or plus £2,000 ugly as sin. It just says goal, and it really doesn't matter what the goal is like. It's just the fact that he's scoring, and again the only downside to that is it just kind of adds a little full stop to what we said before about how reliant we already seem to be on him. The fact that it's taken him to come on and get the winner. But look, I didn't think we would win the game. I think I predicted a draw and lose on penalties. I think you both predicted that we would lose.
No, Daz predicted a Wrexham win. I predicted a Preston win.
Oh, did he?
I
don't. Unfortunately, I don't remember that. I was too busy. I was too busy laughing at his neckerchief. But to be fair, I genuinely didn't think we would win that game, because I thought we would make big changes, and I just thought it'd be too much for us. But the fact we've won the game and got through to the next round is brilliant. Again, like I said when we talked about the whole game, I like this competition because it's a good opportunity to give competitive minutes to players. So the fact we've got another round out of it, I won't lie, I did want a big Premier League game this time.
Tottenham. I wanted Tottenham away. I wanted Tottenham at the Tottenham Stadium.
You see,
I really did.
Yeah, I would have loved that, but on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night, that'd be horrible to do that. But I have to be honest, I was sat here watching the draw, and apart from the fact that my head was going, because it was like, right, you draw this one out of that pot, and then you draw that one out of that pot, and then you stick it up your arse, and then swizzle it around, put it back out, put it back in the pot, and then he draws it out of the pot, and that decides that they're going to be at home. I was like, what the f*** is going on?
It didn't help the fact that Grimsby had the pure bad taste to beat Man U on penalties. And I would imagine Sean Pearson, ex of this parish, assistant manager, must have been absolutely delighted with that result, because it looked like on the sidelines he was biting all his nails off as those penalties were going.
The best thing about that draw, though, was they had Phil Jones doing it. So Phil Jones and I can't remember the other fella's name. And the guy, what's his name, Mark Chapman, was hosting it and explaining what was going on. And Phil Jones looked like as if, I don't know if you ever remember that episode of The Simpsons, right, where Marge is bollocking Homer and the camera pans into his head and there's a monkey in his brain banging a drum. And that's what the look on Phil Jones's face looked like. He didn't have a clue. He was just waiting for the guy to say, look, when I tell you, you pick a ball out of that bowl, because he didn't have a clue. In fairness, it was confusing as hell. But yeah, I mean, as you started seeing Arsenal come out and Liverpool come out, and like you say, I would have loved Man United either at home or away, but they got knocked out.
I mean, we're at home. Reading at the moment, they can't bag a win either. The game's only in a couple of weeks. It's not as if it's ages away.
I mean, ultimately,
good chance
as much as absolutely, as ultimately, as much as I would have loved a big Premier League game, home or away. For me, this is, with no disrespect to Reading, but this to me is the next best thing, because this is a winnable game. It's at home, so they've not got to do any midweek travelling, and this is a winnable game. Now, I'm not saying it's a given. We've still got to go out there and do a job. And like you say, it's probably written in the stars that Jack Marriott will score a winner. But for me, it's a winnable game. And then it's an opportunity to get into round 4, which would hopefully give you an even better chance of getting a Premier League club. I just didn't want to, no disrespect, but I didn't want like a Wigan away or a Lincoln away or something like that.
Bradford. I didn't want Bradford.
If we were going to get a League 1 or League 2 team, I would have rather it have been at home. So the fact we've got Reading at home, I'm not overly disappointed, because for me, and this should be the incentive for whatever team he puts out, is it's a winnable game. And that means then if we can then get through to, like I say, to round 4, we should have a good chance of getting a Premier League team in that round. But look, it was to go to Preston and get a win with whatever team was out there. Fair play. It was a good night. Yeah.
Not sure from the highlights how much you saw of Doyle, because obviously this was the first game that Doyle played. I was massively impressed by him, and if the promise, the taste of Doyle, I'll call it, because obviously he's playing with a majority of players who he's probably never going to be playing with unless it's within a cup competition. If that is a setup for what's to come, I am massively excited, and I don't know how much you made out from the highlights.
To be fair, it was the one thing I was going to ask you, because from the highlights, you can't really pick up. I mean, to be fair, the only time I really saw him in the highlights was when he was when they were all standing off their guy when he scored the first goal, which I don't think any of them came out of him particularly good with a good look. But I'd heard a lot of people sort of comment on Doyle and say, I think when we signed him, and we were talking about it last week, I referred to it as a Rolls Royce signing, because to me, from what I've seen of him play, he is, we know Parky loves ball playing centre backs, and he is probably, arguably, the best ball playing centre back we've ever had. So I think that's what a lot of people seem to be suggesting from the Preston game, was that he just oozed class and confidence on the ball. Now, I guess, is that the case from what somebody that watched the game? Is that the case? I guess that's one question. But then I suppose the other question is what I'm curious about is what did you make of him defensively?
So he's quick, he's strong. A couple of times he cut out their winger by literally, smashing into him or blocking the ball, which is really, really good. It wasn't to blame for me for the goals. Unfortunately, it was. I mean, the Dobbins goal was from outside the box, and it was an absolute worldie. Very little he can do about that. I think Scar, was probably to blame by not tracking the Preston captain. And he came just barreling in from nowhere and just bullet headed it. So yeah, I mean, defensively not horrendous. I think it's more what he can give his passes from our half, flat curving passes that would take out the midfielders, opposition midfielders, and lay right into the path of running on attackers. I can just see, for example, him to Broadhead when Broadhead's up to speed would be brilliant. Him to Hardy were a couple of times where they were just beautiful, and his high passes were absolutely on a 50p, exactly where they should be. Excuse me. Really picking out players. So I think his service bit, is going to be absolutely incredible. But as I say, it was a taste more than anything of what's to come, to be honest.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I think I suppose you've got to put some perspective on what we've talked about tonight on both of these games, and kind of remember what we said last week about the fact that this is still a massively new team. These players are playing together for the first time. Yes, I know they're going to be playing and training and stuff, but there's no substitute for playing competitive games. It's going to take a good number of games for them to get any kind of momentum going. But I think, where Doyle's concerned, from what I can't really say from what I saw, because like I say, the highlights didn't really do him any justice at all. But from what you've said, from what other people have said, and from what he appears to have shown in that game, and I have seen him play before. I've seen him play for a couple of different championship teams, and like that's why I referred to him last week as a Rolls Royce signing, because he looks a quality player. I'm really looking forward to watching him. But the thought of him slotting in on that left side, and hopefully Max, will get to grips with the championship sooner rather than later. If we can get Max on a level of performance that we've been used to seeing him in League One, League Two, and etc., and then you've got Doyle on the other side, and then the experience of Connor Cody in the middle, hopefully that's going to be hopefully that's going to be like the bedrock of what's going to make our defense, a better, a more solid defense. Because at the minute we're shipping goals like there's no tomorrow, and that's, I don't think you can blame any one individual. It's a collective thing. It's right from the front to back. But that's what we built our success on last season, wasn't it? Was keeping the goals out. This year it seems to be a little bit the opposite. We seem to be able to score goals, a lot of goals, but we're struggling to keep them out. So I'm excited about Doyle. I think it was really encouraging to hear a lot of people say the same things that you've just said. So I'm really looking forward to watching him in a full game.
Now, Neil Much's podcast, it's time for today's newspaper, tomorrow's chip paper, where we catch up on Cymru and Wrexham football news. First up, Mansfield Youth away were the opposition for Wrexham Academy this week, and unfortunately Wrexham Academy lost 3-2. In fact, they gave away a 2-1 lead, with Mansfield scoring 2 late goals. Wrexham's goals were by Umar Nawaz and Rio Owen. Wrexham finished the week 5th in the Youth Alliance League North, 3 points off the top. The next game is versus Rotherham Youth away on Saturday, 30th of August. They also played Cardiff City under-18s at home on Tuesday in the Under-18s Professional Development League Cup and drew 1-1. Wrexham's goal by Carrick Murphy. Now, this cup is a bit like the Football League trophy from last year, as in there is a round-robin league system first, and then depending if you can come in the top 2 of the league, you then go on to a knockout stage. So Wrexham Academy will play Swansea City under-18s next on October the 4th. So quite a big match there from that point of view. Wrexham Women had 2 friendlies this last week. On Thursday, they played Sheffield Town and won 3-2. And then on Sunday, they played Shrewsbury Town and lost 2-1, with the winning goal for Shrewsbury, unfortunately, a Wrexham own goal. No info, I'm afraid, on the lineup or the score.
What? Why did I think you were going to say then the winning goal was scored by Will Boyle?
Well, he scored on Tuesday, so maybe he's maybe he put on a wig to replace his other wig, like a long-haired wig, and then
that's just a snapshot into how mental my world is at the moment.
Yeah,
I just honestly thought you were going to say Will Boyle scored the winner.
Yeah, no, unfortunately didn't. But no info on the lineup or who scored or who played or anything else because Wrexham media team have gone on holiday. And I'm sure we'll hear something soon. Although we've had some news, which I'll talk about in a second. Their last pre-season friendly will be versus Solihull Moors away on the 3rd of September. However, Wrexham AFC have managed to sign 2 new players literally today. They were, according to the Wrexham AFC website, they're delighted to announce the signing of ex-Newcastle and Celtic defender Jody Bartle. Bartle, who spent the last 2 years with Newcastle United, arrives in North Wales with a plethora of experience within the game. The 33-year-old has signed a contract until the end of the 26-27 campaign, having departed the Magpies this summer. She started playing football at 16, but turned a full-time professional at the age of 28 when she joined Celtic from Championship side Coventry City in 2020. Her spell in Scotland brought great success, having played in the Champions League alongside winning the League Cup and Scottish Cup for Fran Alonso's side. They've also welcomed today another former Newcastle United player, striker Katie Barker. Sorry, Katie, apologies for that. I haven't got the idioms for Barker. I can say Barker. No, Barker is an easy name, Simon. Come on. Barker, 24, has signed a contract until the end of the 26-27 campaign after departing the North East England side this summer. The Magpies' record goal scorer netted an impressive 67 times and earned back-to-back promotions during her time with the club. The forward also made history during her time with Newcastle, becoming the first female player to score at St James's Park against Alnwick Town in May 2022. In June 2023, Barker became a full-time professional and played a total of 120 times, writing her name into the history books as the club's second highest appearance holder. So, welcome then to Jodie and to Katie. Finally, Wrexham Women sign a couple of players just before the season starts. And what a pair of players I think these are going to be. I don't know whether you've had a chance yet to listen to their interviews. Katie sums it up, I think, and this is where I think it has made the big difference. Within the first 30 seconds, Jodie, basically says, well, I've worked with Jenny Sugarman before, and she's told us about this fantastic thing in the club. And when I came to have a look at it, I'm hooked because it is absolutely the right setup, and the setup that Jenny has run before with regards to players included fully inclusive within the club and having a fully, connected attitude. And Katie made the same noises. So bring Jenny Sugarman in has opened now a door to a whole load of other players that aren't within the Adran League bubble and the Welsh bubble, because we're now bringing in players from the English side. Surely this is the reason why it's great having somebody of Jenny Sugarman's prestige and experience now as Wrexham Women's manager.
Yeah, I mean, this on paper, like I say, I'm not even going to try and pretend that I know anything about either of these guys' careers. What you've just reeled off there is impressive on paper. To have come from Newcastle, is a kind of a different level, isn't it? But this is what I think we spoke about when Jenny Sugarman got appointed. Was we were hopeful that her contacts and her kind of network would give us access to players of this kind of caliber, whether on loan or on a permanent basis or whatever. So the fact that obviously, evidently, she's having an impact on bringing in and getting players of this kind of caliber from setups that are going to be way more ahead than what we are to buy into what we're trying to do here is a great it's a great sign, isn't it? It's a great sign of what she's able to do now. I'd be fascinated to know, or I would be fascinated to be a fly on the wall for the conversation of explaining the Adran Premier to these girls, and compared to what they'll be used to. But they obviously,
Well,
they.
Jodie's played in Europe already while she was in
Yeah.
Scotland. She's won cups. You listen to her interview. She says she wants to come here. She wants to win the league. She wants to play in Europe. Right? She's not messing. She's no messing about. Katie sounds like an absolute bruiser. I'm so looking forward to the first game versus Britain Ferry, because that last year that was a physical game, because Britain Ferry take no quarter. I think it's going to be an absolute belter of an opening game on that first Sunday.
I mean, this, if hopefully these are just the start of a good few more that will come through the door before the start of the season, which they need, don't they? Because we have got a small team and a small squad. If this is the kind of caliber of what we're hopefully going to be seeing, then this can only be a good thing for us. Although I do have to say it now, and now that the admin seem to have found the password for the X account, I implore them to please now, from this point on, only sign players with horrendous surnames so that you have trouble pronouncing them all season. So I don't want any Joneses or Bakers or Barkers or Evanses.
Hey, I can't get Barker. I couldn't get it out then, so I wouldn't worry about that bit, to be honest with you.
Let's have some South American or some Greek or something like that. That'd be amazing. Watching you trying to week in, week out trying to pronounce. Although, having said that, you did all right with Kyriakopoulos when she played. You did all right with her.
That was easy. Kyriakopoulos was easy. I've had to be standing in front of the mirror saying Abby Indenden a lot to try and get that out, and I'm still falling over it, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. No.
Jack, but yeah, great for the women, and I'm really looking forward to that. Jack Marriott, on the other hand, has left. He's moved to Reading on a permanent transfer for an undisclosed fee. Striker Marriott, 30, signed for Wrexham from Fleetwood in January 2024, has played a part in our 2 promotions since. He played 17 games in 23-24, scoring his first Wrexham goal on the day we sealed promotion to League One versus Forest Green Rovers. Marriott's goals were then key to our excellent start to last season, including a goal in the season contender in the opening day win versus Wycombe Wanderers, when he scored a spectacular volley. He also scored against Peterborough United, Shrewsbury Town, Birmingham City and Northampton Town before a freak training ground injury ruled him out for 2 months. However, he returned to action in the new year, scoring his final Wrexham goal in a 3-0 home win versus Burton Albion, finishing the promotion-winning season with 6 goals in 30 games in all competitions. Jamie, it's one of those weird ones, isn't it, where you're kind of thinking, what if? What if? Because he started really slowly, when Mullin was on form, and you're thinking, well, he's not going to get a game. And the few games that he did, a few kind of 10 minutes he did get, he didn't really make any massive difference. And then he came into that League One start and was absolutely scoring for fun with some absolute brilliant ones, and then bust his foot in a weird accident and never really returned. I mean, what if is the words I say. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what I think. That's the first time I've seen that Reading kit. And is it just me, or does that look like a Christmas jumper?
And that's Reading fans turning off right now. You can see that.
I'm not being funny, but that is bloody awful. Mm-hmm. And it's a Macron one as well. Anyway, what if? That is a brilliant way of kind of summarising Jack Marriott's time at Wrexham. I think, double promotion winner, so he'll forever be kind of held in high regard. You're absolutely spot on. I think, that the first season he struggled to make an impact. But the start of last season, exactly like you've just said, is the best way of saying it. What if, for all we know, if he hadn't have got that horrible injury and broke his leg, would we have ended up signing Sam Smith in January? It's crazy sometimes how things work in football. If you'd have said to any Wrexham fan 12, 18 months ago that Paul Mullin wouldn't be at the club now, nobody would have believed you. But this is how football is such a crazy thing. But look, I'm grateful for what he did when he was in a Wrexham shirt. He scored some important goals. For me, still goal of the season last year. I know he didn't get it, but for me, that was goal of the season, that goal against Wycombe. on the opening game of the season. That for me was the goal of the season. And I think his agent's done him a sterling number there to get him a 3-year deal at this stage of his career.
Yes.
So for his kind of his and his family security, that's good news for him. So hey, look, I wish him all the luck in the world. I've got nothing but admiration for Jack Marriott, and fingers crossed he won't come and score a winner when we play him in the Caribou Cup.
Craig Bellamy has announced his Cymru men's squad for the upcoming qualifier versus Kazakhstan and the friendly versus Canada in the next couple of weeks. Aaron Ramsey has been left out of the squad after the 34-year-old midfielder came off the bench last week for new club Pumas Unam, which is in the Mexico team, playing his first minutes for that Mexican side after suffering a hamstring injury in Cardiff City's 2-1 victory over Luton on 11th of March. Leeds United skipper Ethan Ampadu is also absent after suffering a knee injury in their 1-0 Premier League win against Everton in mid-August. Ruben Colwill misses out as well on the call-up despite impressing for Cardiff in their unbeaten start to the season in League One and the EFL Cup. But Bluebirds teammates Dylan Lawler and Ronan Capacchio are included, with Coventry City midfielder Kai Andrews, the third uncapped player in Craig Bellamy's 25-man squad. And most importantly for us, for the first time in more than a decade, in fact, it's longer than that, actually, for the first time since 2007, Wrexham will provide 3 players for the national side, with new signings Danny Ward, Nathan Broadhead, and Kiefer Moore, all included in the squad. So, the Wales squad: Carl Darlow, Adam Davis, Danny Ward, Ben Cabango, Jay De Silva, Ben Davis, Ronan Capacchio, Dylan Lawler, Chris Mepham, Joe Roden, Nico Williams, Kai Andrews, David Brooks, Charlie Crew, Jordan James, Josh Sheehan, Sober Thomas, Harry Wilson, Nathan Broadhead, Liam Cullen, Mark Harris, Lewis Kumas, Daniel James, Brennan Johnson, and Kiefer Moore. Jamie, we'll talk about the Wrexham side of it in a minute, but are you surprised kind of Aaron Ramsey being left out? Because possibly he could have played. No.
I look. You can't deny the impact he's had in a Wales shirt over the last 10 years. Being a colossus alongside Gareth Bale in the real glory days. But my opinion, and it's a shame Daz isn't here, and obviously we can talk about it next week. But my personal opinion is, I think he needs to call it now. He needs to call it, because the problem is, I think Bellamy's done the right thing here by leaving him out of this squad, because he literally has played, like you said, what did you say, 15 minutes come on as a substitute in that game in the 10 minutes. Mexican, in the Mexican Cartel League or whatever he's playing now. So that's the most competitive football he's played in how many months? So
since March 11th.
He's absolutely done the right thing by not including him in this squad. My fear is that if he can keep himself, I say fear, you know what I mean when I say this. If he keeps himself fit and he gets himself in that Mexican team on a regular basis, he will probably get picked in the next Wales squad. Now, I wouldn't be against that, but my only issue is that I don't think he's had a huge impact in a Wales shirt for a little bit of time now, and all he's doing is taking up a squad place. That's my sort of issue with it. I think, yes, you do need experience in your team, but we have experience in that squad. There are plenty of players in that squad that have got experience. There's plenty of young players in that squad that have got good experience. I mean, you look at the likes of bloody Harry Wilson. I mean, he's only 26, and he's already got 50 odd caps. Ethan Ampadu's another one. Young lad, and he's got 50 something caps. So we're fortunate in that we've got a lot of players smuttered through that squad that are young and still have the bulk of their careers ahead of them, but have got huge amounts of experience. I'm not talking down on Aaron Ramsey at all. He's been an absolutely phenomenal player in his career at a club and country level. I just think he needs to call it. I honestly feel like the only reason why he's gone to that Mexican league is well, A, because he must be getting paid some sweet drug money, but also because he's but also because he obviously
he's not getting paid drug money, right? He's not. That's not true. I don't want to get cancelled because we've accused a player of taking drug money. He has not. He has not.
I just because his neighbour is Pablo Escobar Jr. Look, it is what it is. I honestly think he's only gone to that Mexican league because he probably think, like say, he'll be on good money there, and he thinks he will get regular football, and therefore will have a chance to get in, because it's World Cup year, isn't it? So he'll want that's what he's trying to do. I honestly think that's the only reason why he's still carrying on playing at club level, is because he wants to have one more swan song in a tournament. But no, I'm glad he's been left out of this squad, because I think it would have been wrong to take a place or take somebody else's place. I think when I saw this before, it was just all for me that I couldn't get over was the fact that we saw names in that team that had Wrexham next to it. I mean, how good was that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first time in 17 years we've had somebody represent from Wrexham, have that little bracket after their name that says Wrexham. Any player in the senior squad. First time in 18 years that we've had 3 players represent from the squad. I mean, to have our club finally making a contribution to our national side, from all the times we remember where we used to churn players out in the 70s and 80s, and even in some of the 90s. It's lovely, isn't it, that we can finally say, yeah, we are making a difference and we're contributing to our national side.
Well, fingers crossed, by the time these games are played, there'll be 4.
Yeah, I don't know about that. It'd be lovely, but I don't know about that, because I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah,
gone very quiet.
Obviously now the fear is that we don't want them to get injured. Yeah, that's what you don't want, is them get injured on international duty. Yeah, because that absolutely, particularly as you said, Kiefer Moore, because he is so important to the cause. He'll be the one that you don't want.
Where are these games? Are they? Where
Kazakhstan? Well, we'll talk about Kazakhstan in a bit, because we've got to do a prediction on it. That's in Astana, and Canada is at the Swansea.com stadium, which I've got.
Okay, it's at home, so that's fine. Because I was when I saw this briefly, I was unsure about where that Canada game was, and I thought, to be fair,
Swansea
traveling.
That's at Swansea. Yeah, no, it's fine.
Tidy.
So the transfer window closes on Monday. We've probably got about a few days now since we're recording this. 7:00 on Monday is the answer to that. And I thought it'd be a good chance for Jamie and I to look at what we think Wrexham are going to do and what problems that they've got. Interesting graphic that I've got here with regards to who's currently in the squad. Now, I've taken out all the under-21s because they don't count towards the squad numbers. Doyle is the one. I've had to look him up because he is 21 at the moment, but the rules are that you have to be 21 or under in the January of the league you are playing in. Now, he was born in October. So in October, he becomes 22. That means in January, he'll be 22. That means he has to count towards the squad numbers. So I believe he has to be included. In this little graphic here, the ones in red are currently injured, as far as we can tell, because we haven't seen them recently. Kakachi apparently is on the grass, but we've not seen him as yet. Obviously, the rest of them, they are injured. So there are some general rules with regards to the transfer window. As I said, it closes on Monday, the 1st September at 7 p.m. BST. The squad size in the Championship, the 25 players is the maximum squad size you're allowed. That has to include goalkeepers within that 25 now, unlike in League One. But under 21s that you own don't count. Homegrown players, at least 8 of the 25 must be homegrown, meaning they were registered in any English or Welsh FA club for at least 3 years before turning 21. So that basically means that most of the players now what we have would qualify for that. It's basically just to stop you bringing in loads of players from abroad and just plopping them into your 25. Under 21 players aged under 21 under, as of the 1st of January of the season year, do not count towards the 25-man squad unless they are on loan. So if you loan in a 21-year-old, that does count. So again, if we're loaning anybody, we have to be careful. All loan players, regardless of age, must be included in the 25-man squad. Now, we don't have any players on loan at the moment, so that's fine. And the big one for us, which we'll talk about in a second, is that the club must submit their squad list to the EFL within 24 hours of the summer transfer window closing. So by 7 p.m. on Tuesday the 2nd, Parky has to put in those 25 names from that point of view. So, right. So we come to that bit. Jamie, looking at this graphic here, we currently have 30 players, not including anybody we might still be bringing in. Okay? Looking at those, who would you say are nailed on to definitely get named in the 25 squad list? Who do you think will not be named in the squad list but may just sit out on the side? And who do you think we need to get out the door, either on loan, as we have loaned 4 players already out, or sell like we have done with Marriott this week?
I think we just need to name that graphic as you've got it there as our starting lineup, and we'll be laughing because there's nobody.
I bet you any money the defence will still be crap.
Yeah, I bet you Connor Cody will still be left on his own in the middle of defence. Right, so who do I think will definitely be named from that graphic? So I think the 3 goalkeepers are a definite.
So that's 3.
I think Brunt, Cleworth, Doyle, Cody. So I think those
7.
4, definitely. And then from the midfield, I think because I believe Cannon is injury still some way off being anywhere near being ready. So I reckon he will stay at the club, but I just think he won't be registered. So I think I don't know how you want to class that, but I don't think he'll be registered.
He's just sitting on the sidelines enjoying the view.
On the side, yeah. So I think Dobson, Lee, Barnett, O'Brien, James, and McLean, Longman. I think all those get registered. So
that's
how many
14.
was that? 1, 2, 3. Okay.
That's 14 in total.
Kakache, Thomason, Windass, Rathbone. I think those all get registered.
That's 18.
And then I think Smith, Moore, Hardy, Broadhead.
So that's 22. So you have 3 places left.
Yes.
So you didn't mention Scar. You didn't mention O'Connell.
I think potentially one of those 3 places might be taken up by Scar or O'Connell. I expect one of those to go.
Which one? Which one would you say you would go?
Which one would I say, or which one do I think will go? Because they're different answers.
Which one do you think will go?
So I think Scar will go because there has been some rumor of him, clubs being interested in him. If it was my choice personally, I'd let O'Connell. I'd move O'Connell on. I keep Scar personally. But
I'm just going to write down Scar. I'm just going to write down Scar as one of them. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So I think Scar will go.
So O'Connell's in. So that gives you 2 places left in the squad.
If we don't bring in another defender, then I think O'Connell will get registered and take one of those three spare places.
Yeah.
Okay. So then into midfield, I don't see George Evans getting registered. So
do you think he should go, or would you sit him with next to Cannon, keeping him company?
No, the preference would be that he would go, whether that's on loan or be sold, because as much as he's a handsome bastard, he looks very out of his depth for me. Whether that's a fitness thing, because bear in mind he had a big part of the season last year out injured, didn't he? I suppose you've got to remember that he came to us from Millwall, from a championship club. I guess you ask yourself the question, why did they let him go? I've not seen anything from the performances of him so far that would make me think he's going to offer a huge amount. this season. So for me, my preference would be that he goes out on loan or that we sell him. But obviously, whether we can do that is another thing. You might end up in a situation where he stays on your books, but he's not registered. But yeah, for me, I wouldn't register him.
Okay.
Who else did I not see? Mendy. Yeah, look,
You mentioned Lee, didn't you? I'd have to remind you. Did you mention Lee?
I think Lee will get registered. I have to be honest. When Mullin left, I was thinking along the lines of I wonder whether Lee will go as well. But I think he will want to keep Lee around, as much as I don't see him having anywhere near the kind of impact that we're used to seeing him have. I think he is still worth. Unless obviously something better came along for him, I think he is definitely worth still having involved in the squad and having it on the bench. You know, he's even at this level, he has got the capability, I think, of coming off the bench and getting a crucial goal or something like that. So yeah, I can see him staying. The ones I didn't mention was Mendy again. Mendy for me to go out on loan or be sold it preferably. Again, ceilings like we spoke about before. I think we're at a ceiling with Mendy as much as it's hard to say because he's been with us from National League. Tom O'Connor again is another one. I he showed so much promise when he first came to us, and I think I have a little bit of sympathy for him because he came to us as a midfielder. We basically needed him to fill in as a left central defender, and he did so well there that he ended up basically becoming a left central defender. But then I think the quality of the opposition that we're playing against has just surpassed him basically, and I think again, talking about ceilings, I just don't see him as a championship player, to be honest with you. So for me, I think the right thing would be that he's sold or loaned out, or that he's able to move on. That's it for midfield, isn't it? Palmer,
so he's gone, yeah? O'Connor's gone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You've got one left to get rid of.
So Palmer, from the strikers, Palmer, I think is a given. He's going to go before the end of the transfer window. I mean, from the report,
Swindon Town by all the thing, yeah.
Well, that seems to be the favourite, doesn't it? But there supposedly he's got 7 or 8 offers on the table. So, let's.
But not Man City, funny enough, even though he can score 20 goals for him.
In the nicest possible way, and I'll always, again, he'll be another one that will always be held in high regard for me. But in the nicest possible way, I hope that if he gets a move, it's a permanent move, and we can he can go off into the sunset.
It shows how brutal it is, isn't it? Because he scores those 2 goals versus Hull, keeps us in the competition. He wasn't even on the bench on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
I mean, how brutal it is.
I said to you at the time, didn't I? I did feel a little bit like that whole game. That felt a little bit like a swan song. It felt like a bit of a goodbye game. And I'm chuffed to bits for him that he had such an impact in that game and he scored those goals and he was able to celebrate in front of the home fans. But yeah, again, ceilings. I just think the ironic thing is he's the closest thing we've got to Kiefer Moore. We've spoken all night about how integral Kiefer Moore is to this system, but he's the closest thing we've got to it, to Kiefer Moore. But I just don't. It feels to me like Parky's made his mind up a long time ago about Palmer and that it's time, that he moves on. Like, I mean, the documentary suggested that Parky wanted him to go out on loan in January, didn't it? But he chose to stick it out. So yeah, I think Palmer's definitely going to go. And then Rodriguez, I mean, the rumours are at the minute is that he's potentially going to retire because of his injury. He's got a break in his foot or his leg or something, hasn't he? Well,
let's count who you've got. So you've got Ward, Okonkwo, Burton, Brunt, Cleworth, Doyle, O'Connell, because you said you wanted to keep O'Connell, didn't you?
Yeah.
Cody.
Yeah.
Hang on. How many is that? That's hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 8. Yeah. Dobson 9.
Yeah.
Lee 10. Barnett 11. O'Brien 12. James 13. McLean 14. Longman 15. Kakachi 16. Thomason 17. Windass 18. Rathbone 19. Smith 20. Moore 21. Hardy 22. Broadhead 23. So you've got 2 more places.
I feel like I'm doing Sesame Street with the count here.
1.
So no. So
2
this is
players.
So this is coming back full circle to where we started, which is we technically from what we have currently to where we are sat talking today, there are 2 available spaces. And this is where I think we will see 2 more players come in. That's where I think the 25 will come from. Rodriguez, I don't think will get registered. So even if he isn't, there's no truth in this rumor about him retiring. He is sticking around. I think he's going to be out for a little bit of time. So I think initially he doesn't get registered. So even if he's still at the club, I don't think he gets registered. So I'm not including him in my numbers. So for me, as we sit here today, even though there are a lot of players still currently on our books, there are 23 that I would register, and that leaves 2
So for
spaces.
you, Scar, Evans, Mendy, O'Connor, and Palmer should all be taken out into a field and shot.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, or sent to Mexico to play with, Escobar 11.
Become drug mules. Open the blinds and cover up the rat droppings. It's time for the chip shop. Jamie is again running alone, trying to distract the public health inspector to make sure that we can actually open our doors. Predictions this week in the chip shop table. Well, we did incredibly badly in the first game, where none of us predicted a 2-2 draw. Unfortunately, the Preston game, Daz managed to predict a Wrexham win. I predicted Wrexham to lose, and you predicted him to lose on penalties. But unfortunately, with that point, that pushes Daz up to second place and pushes me down to third. Of course it does, because I guess that's where I'm going to be for the rest of the season.
Hello down there.
Yeah, funny. Ha, 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 ha. Anyway, first into the fryer tonight, it's Millwall. Wrexham meet Millwall at the New Den this Saturday, 30th of August, kickoff 3 p.m. BST. Millwall have been in the championship since 2019. Last year, they finished 8th, 18 wins, 12 draws, 16 losses, a goal difference of -2 and 66 points, 2 points off the playoffs. So they were very, very close. In fact, on the last day of the season, they were in the playoffs at one point, but unfortunately, results didn't go their way and they ended up just outside. This transfer window, 10 players sold or released, 7 players in. Probably the star signing for those was Josh Coburn from Middlesbrough, which they paid $6 million for. So far in the league this season, they beat Norwich away, lost to Middlesbrough at home, and beat Sheffield United away. And in the League Cup, they're also in round 3, having beaten Newport County and Coventry City to get to round 3. And apparently they've got a cracking tie. They're away to Crystal Palace, I believe, which for them is quite a local derby. And the chips are done. So, Jamie, back to league action. First of all, are you expecting to see any major changes in the starting 11 from the Sheffield Wednesday game we played on Saturday?
I thought you were going to say then, are you going to even watch this game?
I don't know. You're a busy man. Have you got a wedding?
Yes. Well, it's away, isn't it? I'm not going to the game. No. I don't. I'm not working on the day, but I am working either side of it. So I couldn't go.
I mean, I'm still umming and ahhing about going because I thought maybe I should wear this. What do you think?
Oh, nice. That's good. What number have you got?
Big.
Number 9.
Number 9. Number 9, yeah. I'm a
Piss
number 9.
off,
Look
number
at me.
9.
Look at me. I'm a powerhouse up front. That's me.
Number 9. The only thing that's relevant to that number 9 is that's how many bloody mini rolls you can eat in one sitting. Number 9.
Oh yeah. Too right, I can.
Number 9. Unbelievable, Jeff. I can't believe you've had a number 9. You were a shit defender at best. At best.
What do you mean? Well, it was. Yeah, you're right. All right. I mean, to be fair, I was in goal for a bit because I was so big. I managed to block the goal up. So I can do that. I'll wear this one because I got this done as well. Look at that. Thomas, number 6 for Mickey. That's a good one.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a nice one. Yeah. It'll go well with my Jones and 3 one. I've got the Jones 3 one of those.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you. So, have you got a ticket? Are you going? I thought you were going.
I've got a ticket. Yeah, I've got a ticket. I'm still umming and ahhing about where to go because I'm not quite sure. I have to be honest.
From the
I'm just
because
nervous.
of the
because of everything. I'm just a bit nervous because I'm too fat and old to be able to fight off any teenagers. So yeah,
I mean,
the starting 11 for Saturday. What do you think?
I mean, I'd expect Doyle to come in from the start. That's one change I do expect. Outside of that, regardless of any additional transfers that come in the next couple of days, I probably don't envisage any other changes. Kakache, if he was fit, but then having said that, even if he was fit again to play, I wonder whether this would be the sort of game he'd go for McLean. My gut feeling is that with this game, the way he will set the team up and the way the instructions he will give them will be to, for want of a better phrase, park the bus and basically to try and not concede and nick a goal. That's how I think he'll approach this game. I think he will go very defensive. He'll go very defensive, which is why I think even if Kakache's fit, I think he'll play McLean because I think he will just want to sit back and absorb the pressure and hope that they can keep them out. So yeah,
I don't think they will. They won't though. They won't keep them out. That's the problem.
Do you know what? It's a tough game. This. I mean, forget all the hoo-ha and drama around Millwall. I mean, Christ, if you say the name Millwall to any football fan, the first thing that comes to people's mind is like hooliganism and stuff like that, isn't it? I can't believe that this. I'm sure there is still an element of that goes on, but in this day and age, I can't believe that it's that big of a thing anymore.
I think it's changed a lot. I think it's changed. I think the problem is I've seen too many films and I just get really jittery.
But if you forget all that and just focus on the football, the Millwall are a very, very well established Championship side. They're not flashy, they're not, but like you said at the start, they nearly got into the playoffs last season. They're sitting, I think, 7th or 8th at the minute, 2 wins and 1 loss so far. They're a very kind of gritty, efficient, difficult team to play against, difficult team to beat. And in their own backyard, I saw a tweet from their official account earlier on that the game sold out. So I think the Den is about 20,000 capacity. So although it's not necessarily a huge stadium, that's going to be a hostile sort of environment. I mean, you're probably talking maybe 2,000 away fans. So it should be a great atmosphere, but I think it'll be quite a hostile one. Do you know what? It's a hard game. This, really hard game.
Will be, yeah.
They're
an established Championship side. They've had a really good start to the season. You know what I mean? They're not. They are absolutely. I mean, they beat Sheffield United 1-0. Should have been more. They had that slip up with Middlesbrough, and looking at the match, I've watched the highlights of the match, and Middlesbrough were a better team, but then Middlesbrough, I think, are contenders for that top 7 slot.
I can't remember what game it was. It was the back end of last season, and I watched Millwall play. I can't confess that I've watched them play loads, but I've seen enough of them in highlights and clips and stuff. But the back end of last season stuck in my mind. I don't know why it was even on or why I was watching it, but it was Millwall playing somebody at home. And the way I would kind of summarize how I felt after that game was, I looked at it and I was like, Jesus Christ, that's what like Championship football is going to be like. Because this was at a time when we were going for promotion, and I was thinking, all the players look like prime athletes. They're all 6 foot odd. They're all up and down the pitch like it's effortless. They all look physically strong. They looked a very tough team. And I know they've had a lot of changes in the summer, but I just think that's the kind of ethos of how they're set up. I mean, the only maybe one little saving grace is their key defender has just gone to Sheffield United, hasn't he? I forget his name now, but their main man at the back has just been sold to Sheffield United. So whether that's something that works in our favour or not, I don't know. I'll be honest, I'm nervous about this game. I think when I looked at the fixtures when they came out, and like we talked about, I think we were both expecting that August and probably September are going to be a tough couple of months, whatever happens, whether that's because of just adjusting to the new league, a different style of football, different quality of players. bedding in our new players, but just the teams we're playing as well, and where the games were. And every game we've had so far has just highlighted everything we've said about how tough this league is. And I'm really nervous about this game because I think there's a potential if the kind of the poor elements of what we've seen from us so far this season are on show in this game, we could end up getting, beat quite comfortably. That being said, even now, and you're going to ask me in a second what my prediction is, I'm really on the fence with what to predict because there's part of me that thinks it's either going to be like a 3-0 Millwall win or we're going to nick a 1-0 win. And I'm not sure which way to go.
Well, then, time for the salt, vinegar and sauce cork. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Millwall versus Wrexham?
Either a 3-0 Millwall win or a 1-0 Wrexham win. I back us to score at the minute against anyone. We do look like we can free flowing score a goal. The problem is keeping them out. And at the minute, I struggle to see how we keep them out. I'm gonna go for a. Should have played Daz's first. I'm gonna go for a 2-1 Millwall win. I think we'll lose.
And I'm predicting Millwall 2, Wrexham 1 as well. I think it's just going to be too big a thing to go there against a very established side who are playing fairly well at the moment. We're still trying desperately to hold each other together. I think Doyle might make a difference. I'm hoping, but again, he's going to be fitting in with new players that he's had limited training time with. Obviously he played Tuesday and whatever, but I just think it's going to be a bit of a step too far. And I think if we can get away with a 2-1 loss, I think that's not a disaster. What we don't want is to be pumped, get a 3-0 loss like they had against Middlesbrough. It's important that we at least turn up from that point of view. As you rightly said, Daz isn't here this week, but we can hear his prediction. So, all the way from La Belle France, it's Daz. Hello, Daz.
Hello guys, Daz here, dicking about in the Dordogne at the moment. After a very pleasant few days in the north of Spain, visiting most cities with decent stadiums like San Sebastian, home of Real Sociedad, Bilbao, which you know from last week. We then went visiting to Pau, which is in France, at the Pyrenees, but they seem to be a rugby town, so didn't stay there very long. And now we're in the Bordeaux area, so very, very pleasant indeed. Didn't go to that stadium because we've done that already. 1-2-1, if my memory serves me right, in 2016. So here I am, dicking about. So thought I'd send you my predictions from here. So my first prediction is going to be for the Millwall game for Wrexham. Really difficult one for me to sort of comment on today because Wrexham haven't played Preston at this point where I'm recording, so I don't have the advantage of that result. But even then, I'm going to still think that Millwall's current form in the league is too good, it's too consistent compared to Wrexham's fragility at the back, I think. So on that basis and nothing else, I've gone for a Millwall 2, Wrexham 0 result. Sorry guys, but I just think it's going to be a little bit tougher.
Got crap tan. 2-0, then he said to Millwall. So all three of us are predicting a Millwall win. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And next into the fryer tonight, it's Kazakhstan. Who's that? I knew you were going to say that. Cymru play Kazakhstan away at the Astana Arena in Kazakhstan on Thursday, 4th September, 3 p.m. BST kickoff. So an afternoon kickoff on a Thursday. They obviously don't have work days in Kazakhstan, do they? They just do. I mean, to be fair, they're ahead. I get it. They're ahead of their miles. Because think about it, it's almost outside of Europe now, isn't it? It's practically Asia, Kazakhstan. It's right on the edge. This is a part of obviously World Cup qualifying in Group J. Kazakhstan are currently 4th in the group with 1 win, 2 losses and a goal difference of -1. Of the matches they've played so far, Cymru beat them in the first match 3-1 in Cardiff. They then beat Liechtenstein themselves 2-0, who are the kind of the whooping whooping boys of the league, and then they lost 1-0 to Macedonia. Apart from the Cymru win against Kazakhstan in the group, Cymru have drawn 1-1 with North Macedonia, beat Liechtenstein 3-0, and then lost in that incredibly close game 4-3 to Belgium. And the chips are done. So, Jamie, difficult away game for Cymru. First back of the season after the long kind of break from the summer. Players are just starting to get back up to speed with their squads in their domestic sides. We'd had a fairly decent game against them at home, 3-1, so we know what they're going to play. But this is a totally different beast, isn't it? Flying all the way out there to Kazakhstan and playing. I mean, what kind of a game are you expecting?
I mean, you're right with everything you've listed there with regards to the challenges against us. Like you say, first fixture of the season. I know it's hard to kind of call it that from an international perspective, but I know what you mean. Our players are still going to be kind of getting up to speed with their fitness and things, at the start of the season. But that being said, I think from what we know about Craig Bellamy so far, he demands a certain level, doesn't he, of effort and performance, and I don't expect this to be any different. I think this is a game that we are expected, even though it's away and it's a tough place to go and travel away to. It's a game we're still very much expected to win. And whilst I don't expect an easy game, it is a game that I do expect us to win. I think anything other than a win would be a disappointment if I'm being brutally honest. I think we beat them pretty comfortably when we played them at home, and I think we have got ourselves to a position now where we're the days of us being in the depths of this level of the rankings are quite far quite long ago now. So we have to have some confidence in what our position in the world rankings and where we consider ourselves to be as a team. You look at that squad list that we had up on screen before of who we've got. Some quality players in there,
Yeah, absolutely.
So putting a team out that should be able to go and do a job away to with the greatest respect to Kazakhstan, shouldn't be too much of a problem. And from what I've seen of Craig Bellamy so far, I don't think I don't have a lot of concerns that they'll go into it in the right frame of mind. Whereas with without being horrible, but with the likes of with Page and stuff, I was always a little bit skeptical about what kind of mindset the players were in, what kind of mindset he was sending them out with. I don't get that from Bellamy. So yeah, it's a game I would expect us to go and win.
So time for the salt, vinegar and sauce core. Let's go out to France and ask the French jury. Daz, what's your score prediction for Kazakhstan versus Cymru?
So as you guys know, my two loves in life, particularly Guinness and red wine. So to make up for the fact that I've been in Ireland quite a lot recently, I'm now in the Saint-Emilion area of south of France, near Bordeaux, which means I have been on the wine already, on a cycle journey through the vineyards, glorious as it was, which means this prediction could go any direction. But anyway, I think it's been a while since we've had the boys in the camp, so we don't really know if everybody's going to be there. Is everybody fit? But I think even with a decent team, fairly fit, I think if Keith is doing this business for Wrexham, he'll be in the squad. Dave Brooks has been doing brilliantly for Bournemouth. A great assist the other day. So no, I think there's plenty to be positive about in the Welsh camp, but playing away is going to be the biggest factor in this one. So on the basis that it's what did we do last time? Was it 3-1? I think we'll be a bit more wary of them. I think we know what their attack can be like, be a bit more cagey, a bit more solid. So on that basis, again, I'm going to go for a 2-0 result. So Cymru to win 2-0, mainly because it's an away result, but I think we'll be solid, and I think Bellas will get us a good result on the day. Right, well, I hope to be back in that there fair Cardiff by the time we speak next. I've got a few more trips to do yet. We're going to go up the Atlantic coast, go to Rennes, I've been to Stade Rennes before, so don't need to go to that one. And then home via Plymouth, and again, don't need to go and see the Pilgrims. Anyway, hope you guys are okay. Look forward to seeing you properly soon. Until then, have a good one.
I got from that he's solid.
He missed one out of his favourite things. When he said his favourite things are red wine, Guinness, he missed the third one, which is gout. Jesus Christ.
So, Jamie, what's your score prediction for Kazakhstan versus Cymru?
I'm glad he said that, because legit, that was my prediction as well. 2-0 Wales win.
And I'm predicting Wales 2, Kazakhstan 1, Wales 2. I think you're right. I think Wales will probably just about have enough, but I think they might score against us because of where it is. But I think Cymru will have enough to win this game and then move on to the friendly, which we'll talk about next week. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And we'll be reviewing these two games in next week's pod. So there we are. Another one over. No Daz, but he'll be back next week. Hopefully, if he sobers up enough, of course, in time. We'll be looking back, obviously, at the league game versus Millwall. And if I do go, hopefully I'll still be in one piece without any serious stab wounds. And obviously the qualifier, as we just talked about, versus Kazakhstan. We'll look forward to Wrexham Women's first game of the season versus Britain Ferry Llansamble. And just popped up while we were doing the pod here, I got a little notification because obviously I put out the tweet saying welcome to the new players, and Jodie Bartle liked our tweet, so nice. She's obviously paying attention to our account. So Croeso, Jodie, welcome. You never know, maybe we'll get you on the pod one day if by some miracle we can actually get any Wrexham players to come on the pod, because they're not allowed to. But I'm planning to be at the Britain Ferry game on a week on Sunday, so we'll see you there. Look out for the flag. Look out for the Eat More Chips flag if you're there. So great from that point of view. Obviously, we'll be looking forward to that first game of the season versus Britain Ferry Llansamble and the home national friendly of Cymru versus Canada.
Canada? What's that all about?
We'll see. We'll finally see as well who's in and who's out of the Wrexham squad as the transfer window will be closed.
Do you know what? As exciting as this transfer window's been, I actually can't wait for it to be closed.
No, I know. It's
just so we can get on with the football.
Absolutely, yeah. There's lots of I mean, we're lucky we're not one of the clubs who are worried that our best players are going to go.
I know.
It's just if we get linked with any more players, we'll have to build an entire stadium just for the dressing room size, because we don't have players we're going to have. It's going to be crazy. Obviously, please let us know by the usual channels, whether it be comments on YouTube or comments on Spotify or comments on our X account or comments on our Blue Sky account or comments on the toilet wall of the Kairas, which normally those are the comments that I see. Feel free to ask some questions. We have had a couple of emails, which I'll go into next week. We've just run out of time this week. But yeah, great to have all your emails and comments. Please send them in. If there's anything particular you'd like us to talk about or discuss, then please put those in the comments as well. Obviously, we'll be back next week. So until next week, come on, Cymru, and come on the town.
Clinton, 4-0. Thomas, after like a goal. That's number 5.
Plays it through to Bellamy. Craig Bellamy. It's 2-1 Wales. Craig Bellamy. Tony Hughes for Wrexham into the lead.
And that's it! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are the FA Trophy winners 2013!
Alex Cross, great ball! Equaliser! Elliot Lee!
Back to back
questions. Can you believe it?
The Eat More Chips Podcast.